Good morning to everyone, and thanks for taking some time to hang out with me and talk about leadership a bit. In case you don't know me, my name's Leticia Estrada, and I'm one of your human resource contacts here at TPM. I've been here for about 10 years, and I'm happy to help with any of your questions, comments, or issues that pop up, so feel free to give me a call anytime at the office. In terms of today's webinar, if you guys have any questions, I've muted all of you, sorry, just to kind of cut back on the feedback that comes in through the line. But if you guys type any info into that little chat box on your screen, I will try to keep my eye on that and address any questions. But the topic for today, as you guys know, is leadership, which is a very broad and subjective topic unique to each individual. But at the heart of leadership, despite all of its differences between people and the different leaders, is that we're guiding people for success. So that's kind of what we'll focus on a bit today. And I just want to provide you guys with some food for thought. Just think about leadership in different ways. And I invite you guys to take what you like and leave what you don't, because like I said, it's very subjective, but hopefully you can pull some good material out of here today. But there's a big difference between just being a supervisor and taking that step to be a leader. So let's kind of dig into what that looks like. So let's start from the beginning of our careers, so to speak. If you can think back, we didn't all start at the top or start as management or start as supervisors. And what is it that inspired you to take on a leadership role with your company? Was there somebody in your life that inspired you to go in that direction? Because that's a great start to basing your own leadership style. When I think back to the leader that inspired me was back when I was in college, and I made a huge mistake one day, and he was helping me with a grant. And instead of yelling and freaking out, he used it as a learning opportunity, and that really showed me that leadership can be used as a tool to better our staff instead of to bring them down. So kind of think back to what it is that inspired you and kind of use that. And then the next place to look is your individual job description from your company, because that's the basics. That's the non-negotiable, non-malleable, so to speak, part of your job. That's your formal guide to what you're doing day to day, right? So you're training, you're delegating, you're providing feedback, all of that good stuff. And that's great, but we also need to take a look at what your expectations of the position is, right? So we know what our company wants of us, but what do we want of ourselves? What do we expect from ourselves? Because you're more than a piece of paper. You're more than that job description. You're dynamic, you're growing, you have to create a culture, and your job description is certainly not going to teach you how to do that. So what is that culture to you? And as you take a look at that, you have to realize that you have three main components to your job. You have your company and you have your team, right? And you're right in the middle of those two things, completing your tasks and representing both sides of that equation. So what, as a leader, does that mean for you? Making sure that we are doing what's best for our company and moving them forward financially, moving them forward in terms of product development, and what does that mean for our employees, right? Making sure that they're happy, that their needs are being met, that we're setting appropriate goals, all that good stuff. Another an important piece to look at that's often unanticipated when people first step into leadership roles is this financial piece. Because now we have to look at an all-encompassing viewpoint and have an all-encompassing knowledge of our company, right? So we have productivity versus money. We have people and profit and how those two things interwork. Now we have to look at the greater picture, right? What is our daily production requirements? Do those requirements dictate hours available to our staff? Are we doing financial statements and reviews? We have to think about how workers' compensation and safety claims tie into overall profitability of our company. Are we purchasing equipment? These are essential elements of our job, and in order to be an efficient, effective leader, we need to realize that money ties directly into our jobs and into our people and into our staff. So keep these concepts in mind as you're kind of setting your culture, setting your mindset, and kind of growing yourself as a leader. So leadership styles, we could talk about this for days, and it's a topic in and of itself for sure, but I kind of want to talk about these three main elements of leadership: authoritarian, participative, and delegating. So authoritarian leaders, those are the more autocratic leaders, right? And currently, in the business world, the authoritarian style of leadership has really gone out of style, right? We're moving towards teamwork and getting the opinions of others and growing as a group instead of as individuals. But there's still essential pieces of the authoritarian style. But basically what it is it's boss driven, right? There's really no consultation on decisions. There's no flexibility about what's getting done. A, B, and C have to be done in X amount of time. The boss tells the employees what to do, and they go and do that, in theory, right? Not a lot of meaningful conversation between boss and subordinates. Then we have the participative, right? So that's kind of democratic. Your subordinates are going to help you with making decisions, provide you with feedback and ideas. You'll provide them with delegation of duties for them to participate in the process of getting our goals done, but you'll have the final authority in this type of leadership style. And then with only delegating, right, delegative, that's the laissez-faire leader. Basically, what that means is allowed to do, right? Giving your staff the freedom to do whatever the heck they want, just so long as they hopefully get their jobs done and you're not really interfering. This is typically an unsuccessful model of leadership, but there are elements of it, once again, that we can pull out, right? Like giving our staff autonomy to do their work. But we need to blend all of these topics together, right? We need to have the authority to set goals, but we need to listen and allow for participation from our staff while delegating and making sure we give them that autonomy. So kind of take a minute to process these on your own. You can kind of think about them and which pieces are most appropriate for you and your staff on a day-to-day basis. But to dig a little further into the authoritarian style, right? This is the dictatorship. This is typically the boss that people want to get away from because there's no flexibility, there's no joy in the job. But there are elements that really work here, right? So Bill Gates is an authoritarian style of leader, and he had a positive spin on this, and he has a billion-dollar software empire, right? And plenty of people who work for him happily. So there are ways to use this authoritarian style, pieces of it effectively, because another example of an authoritarian leader is Hitler, and that didn't go so well, right? So it's all in a matter of how we present ourselves, how we blend different leadership styles together. And as this says, it typically can't be maintained long-term without destroying morale. But when we're in a mill, right, and we're dealing with lockout, tagout, your staff needs to do what they're told. And that's not negotiable. So there's pieces here of that authoritarian leadership, right? They need to do what they're told, but there's flexibility in other areas. So participative, basically, this is using your team's strengths intelligently. This is you seeing what your staff's skills are and what their weaknesses are and helping them grow and playing those things, those skill sets to your advantage and to the company's advantage and to their advantage. So basically in this, you're monitoring your employees and you're inquiring about them, learning about them, seeing what they're good at. You stand back and you let them do their job, but you expect them to communicate with you and tell you when things aren't going right or to tell you when something is going really well, right? Communication up and down the line because they're held accountable for their jobs. This is where it's really important to have that open door policy, not just with the company, but with yourself, right? Letting your staff come to you, being the leader that listens and takes people's opinions seriously. It makes for better company culture, and it enables greater success in the long run. And also, it's important to take a look at their job descriptions here, because job descriptions are pretty black and white, but skills aren't necessarily on there. There are other items that your employees might want to grow and areas in which they want to succeed in a little more, and there's ways to coach them and help them with those issues. So how do we choose a style? That really depends on you and what you expect of your team, the environment you're working on. Maybe it changes a little bit from day to day in terms of how much we have to get done on any one given day, or maybe the next day is a little more flexible so we can kind of work together as a team to come up with new ideas, right? It really depends. And I realize some of our jobs are really structured, right? We're trying to get out a certain amount of board feet in a certain day, and everybody has one specific task. But just realize that there are ways to insert all types of leadership and all types of thought processes and listen to our staff throughout the day to make a better work environment. And the real question is, who do you want to be as a leader. Nobody wants to be perceived as the jerk boss, right? The guy nobody gets along with, because you are out there making a difference in these people's lives, whether we like it or not, right? We have control over their day-to-day tasks and activities and whether or not they're being heard within the company. And as a leader, we need to realize that, absorb that, and respect our staff and move forward with that. An important part of this is setting boundaries. So don't mix personal problems with business problems, right? So maybe we had a rough day. Maybe your spouse wrecked your truck. And I only use that example because I've done that to my spouse before. But he certainly didn't take that to work and get mad at his staff about it, right? Like, we deal with our own stuff on our own. And then, of course, we need to respect that your employees have personal issues themselves, right? Not everybody's going to wake up on the right side of the bed or have the perfect life, but they don't need to be bringing in anger or emotions, overly emotionalized, I should say, to the workplace, right? It shouldn't impact their duties. They need to be accomplishing their job tasks, and we need to be monitoring their job performance. And if somebody can't be in the workplace because they just got too much going on, that's okay. Sometimes we have to send staff home. It's just a matter of that boundary setting. Try not to blur the lines too much. And act how you expect your staff to act, right? Monkey see, monkey do. If you're coming in late every day and you don't really care about what gets done, guess what your staff's going to do? The same thing, and nothing will be accomplished. So let's take a second here and look at generations. What generations are working for you? And this is kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because I don't want you to put your staff into age boxes of flaws and positive aspects, but I do want you to be aware of what the different generations can bring to the table and what their backgrounds are, right? Because let's start with millennials, right? They bounce between jobs. They're entitled. They have low work ethic. Well, I can tell you that that low work ethic was determined because they prefer to work 38.8 hours a week instead of 40. So just over an hour has caused them to lose the respect for work ethic, which seems a bit far-fetched, right? And let's look at Gen X. They are accused of wanting to do things quickly instead of accurately. Well, that's not necessarily true of everybody. So let's just take an all-encompassing look at the generations and be aware of who's in our workforce, right? And recognize that we're more than the sum of our parts, right? No herd mentality, just awareness of background. So here's a great graph to just kind of look at what each generation experienced in their lifetime, but mostly in their youth, right? This is what they grew up with. This is what morphed and shaped their thoughts. And we need to stay alert to generational differences among our direct reports, right? Let's take a minute to think about their individual values, their perceptions of workplace priorities. Their behaviors amongst one another can differ. And as a whole, I've seen them work pretty well together. It's all a matter of building that culture and building a team and not siloing our people into different age groups. So it's our job to cultivate enough common focus, right, so that everyone wants to move in the same direction. So we want to remove the stigma of the generations, but know their backgrounds. Knowledge is power. The more we know about our staff, the better in terms of their work ethic. So here's another chart for you. Just to kind of consider, right? One of the big things I want to draw your attention to is currently millennials are 75% of your workforce. So these are the people that are going to make up the bulk of your team, typically. And right, what do they like? They like gold stars, I'll tell you that. They like to get pat on the back. They like to know they're doing a good job. They like teamwork. But if you look backwards through the generations, you're going to see some trends here, right? Like Generation X, they want work-life balance. Guess what? That's exactly what your millennials are looking for too. Baby boomers, they want to be respected and appreciated. That's easy enough said and done. Same of every other generation. Go back to traditionalists. They expect work to be done in the office and measured in hours. Well, that ties right into work-life balance with Gen X and millennials, right? All of these people have the same thought processes. There's a little twist on each generation, right? They can all flow and work together very well. It's just a matter of putting the pieces together. I put this chart in here for you guys because there's two parts on here to really think about. And obviously, we can't put all of our staff into these boxes. But if you look at attitude toward authority, that's important to you because guess what you are? Their authority as their supervisor, right? So what are these people, in theory, thinking about you, right? Millennials. They expect you to respect them from day one, right? A tiny bit of entitlement, right? They do want their gold stars, but they still want to prove themselves. Gen Xers, they just want to ignore you and do their job. Not everybody, right? Just the thought process. Baby boomers, they want to challenge you guys, maybe take your jobs. And then traditionalists, they're just looking to listen to what you have to say, right? Honor your position as a supervisor and help you do the job. And then take a look down at what motivates them. That's the most important thing for you as a leader to understand. What motivates your staff? So take a look through these, right? There's the millennials again. You and your coworkers can turn this place around. Teamwork. They want teamwork. Generation Xers just want you to let them do their job. Just step aside, give them some autonomy, let them do their work. Baby boomers, they want to know that they're important to you and the team and to getting the job done. And once again, back with the traditionalists, the message that motivates them is that they're respected. Their experience is respected. So now that we kind of have a general idea of the generations and some thought processes there, let's think about our team's characteristics. Let's define some standards. There's a company vision, obviously, that you'll be working off of with your business, your company, right? Like maybe that's make great products, maybe that's support the community, whatever that looks like for your company, your culture. But then you need to have your own vision. What do you expect of your team? Do you expect teamwork and efficiency? Do you expect new goals every month? What is it you're looking for, right? That ties right into your individual expectations. The company's going to set expectations, right? It's got job descriptions, it's got products that need to be made, things that need to be sold, shipments that need to go out. And that's all important to get done and part of your goals, but you need to set your own individual expectations for your staff as well. How do we meet the company's expectations? How do we work together? Short-term and long-term goals, right? A short-term goal, right? Monday through Friday, put out this amount of board feet, but maybe in the month, your goal is to come up with a new product idea, right? I don't know what that looks like for you and your staff individually, but there are long-term and short-term goals that can be very motivational for your staff. Take a look at how often you're going to meet and review your successes, because when you're hitting success after success after success, it's time to reanalyze those and maybe raise the bar a little bit. Or maybe we're falling behind and failing a bit. Why are we falling behind? What do we need? What type of skills do we need? What type of training do we need? What type of tools do we need? These are the standards we need to be looking at. And of course, communication up and down the line. You want your staff coming to you, and you need to be able to go to your staff. Building that relationship, building those channels of communication, whether that's email, text, face-to-face, all of the above, those need to be put in place. So here's something to kind of absorb just for a second as we're thinking about standards. 75% of people don't leave their companies because of the company. They leave their bosses. They quit us as supervisors because they don't like our leadership style and they don't like working for us. And at first that can be kind of hurtful. But the reality is all personalities are different. And us as supervisors need to learn how to work with all of those types of individuals and to put aside our own issues and our own problems and truly figure out how to communicate and set goals for all types of people and to build that team and to build that culture. Because your behaviors and moods are going to set the tone daily at work. Because everybody on our team is looking up to us to set the goals for the day, to be able to come to us with problems and issues, whatever that may be, requesting vacation time, requesting a doctor's appointment, whatever it is. We just need to set that mood and that mode and be kind to our staff. So, an important way to prevent our staff from quitting us, as well as defining our team standards, is setting goals. So why are we even setting goals? Obviously, so we know what the heck we're doing, so our staff knows what we're doing and what they need to be doing. Research has shown, basically, that goal setting increases our employees' engagement. It raises level of job satisfaction. It turns to higher levels of retention and performance. So we get more output, and we get better product, and we get happier staff. It's a win-win-win. Obviously, it's not a perfect system, and it takes a bit of work, but that's our job as leaders to get our staff there. And also, our goals are going to help employees prioritize their tasks. making sure that they get everything done they need to get done. So management by objectives, that's just a fancy word for goals, right? That's what goals are, management by objective. It's important to always remember that part of leadership and part of what we're doing every day involves motivation, and goals can help provide that motivation. So we need to clearly define them, and then we need to give our staff the freedom to pursue completing those goals. So there's 3 types of goals in general. There's project goals, right? Putting out the product. Project goals is, that is putting out the product, but there's also performance goals in individual basis and a company basis, right? Are we putting out the correct amount of board feet? Are we getting the correct training? Are we doing the correct things on a day-to-day basis? Are we doing our reporting correctly? All that good stuff. And then the 3rd type of goal is development goals. Is our staff learning and growing? So I like to use the SMART acronym for goal setting: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound, SMART. And just to kind of provide you guys with an easy example, first we'll start with specific. So if I ask my kid to clean their room, her interpretation of clean her room is very much different than mine. So when I go in there and things are shoved under the bed and the closet doors just like crammed shut and there's toys in there, that's because I wasn't specific. I didn't tell her to put her toys away properly and to make her bed and to clean the room the way I wanted it to be cleaned, right? So that's why we need to be as concrete and explicit as possible, exactly what we want done, how we want it done, what work products we want done, the behaviors they need to use to get that done, and the knowledge needed to do it. Okay? So that's specific. Measurable, if there are 20 toys on my kid's bedroom floor, and I tell her to pick up 19 of them, she's allowed to leave 1 done for the day, that's measurable. I can go in there and make sure she cleaned up 19 of those toys. It's specific, and I'm able to look at her behaviors and her timeliness in her ability to pick up those 19 items. Okay, the goal has to be attainable and challenging. Well, for my kiddo, the challenging is a bit far-fetched, but attainable. I can't go in there and ask her to paint her bedroom, right? I don't like the color in here anymore. There's a hole in that wall over there. Please paint that and fix all of that. She doesn't have the skill set. She doesn't have the tools. She doesn't have any of the background to painting her room, but she can certainly clean it. So make sure that the goals are attainable. And then, of course, they need to be relevant to her, right? So at the end of cleaning her room, she'll likely get to go see cartoons. For your staff, that can be a paycheck, but it's also relevant to the company in general, right? So what they're doing is creating positive changes for the company, creating positive product, creating profit, making sure that they feel like they're contributing. And then number 5, which didn't fit in my neat little graph of 4 pieces, is time-bound. People need to be doing their work on time. There's accountability for making sure that deadlines are met. Okay. So it's also important to involve our employees in setting goals. If we just tell them what to do and dictate from the top down, nobody's going to be happy. They're not going to want to serve you as a supervisor. They're not going to want to do what you're telling them to do because they're not feeling like they have any bones in the game, no teeth in the game. So if we sit down with them and say, hey, what would you like to contribute to this company? What goals would you like to meet? It's going to increase their motivation. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to help you get to the end goals of the day, right? Our long-term and our short-term goals. And we want to ask them to elaborate on how they came to those goals. What are they trying to accomplish? Right? So have employees tell you what their goals are. Discuss the differences between your goals and their goals, and kind of meet in the middle. And ultimately, you'll set the goals for the employee, but they will feel like they've been heard, and they'll want to work together with you and your team. Once those goals are set, we don't just walk away and hope for the best, right? We don't have that laissez-faire style of leadership and management. We want to be a part of it. We want to be making sure that we have a little bit of authoritarian in there and making sure we're checking in, right? Informal check-ins. Is the job getting done? Is the job getting done correctly? Show appreciation for their progress, whether that's a pat on the back or maybe a gift card or company-sponsored lunches, however that looks for your team and your individuals, make that happen. Because when people are rewarded above and beyond their regular compensation, even with little things, it builds a degree of trust and joy and happiness and something to look forward to, right? More than they could get with other companies, which builds loyalty to you guys and your company so you're not losing staff. Making sure that we also reevaluate our goals every once in a while, because the company is going to shift. New orders are going to come in, product lines are going to change. It's important that we don't expect us to do the same thing every day, 365 days a year. And then, of course, coaching for performance. If our staff is struggling, let's support them. What training do they need? What coaching do they need? How do we get them to the point where they're successful with us, successful with our company? So what if our team isn't reaching their goals? Or what if we have what we perceive as a bad apple in the group? Why aren't they performing? This is a breakdown of what the typical reasons for poor performance is. 50% of your people that aren't performing accurately or doing the job correctly or just annoying you in general just lack general training. They lack tools and they lack the process understanding of your company. It's our job to train them. What tools do they need? What kind of training can I get them in the meantime? What kind of coaching do they need? What process and procedures need to be in place? What part of their job can they control and what part can I contribute to help them do better? Right? That's half of our workforce. That's an easy fix. Now, the 30% reasons for poor performance might be you and me, right? It's us as leaders. It's on us to make sure that our staff is getting the correct leadership. It's important to make sure that we manage others as they need to be managed, not as we want to be managed. So making sure that we're effective, because if we're not effective and we're not setting goals and we're not having that open door policy, communication isn't flowing up and down the chain of command, our staff won't succeed. They can't. So the other 20%, 10 of them are just unable to do the job. That might be physical reasons. Maybe they can't lift up to 50 pounds. Maybe they legitimately are unable to fill the bona fide job qualifications and they misrepresented themselves, or maybe their health has changed over the years. Whatever that looks like, they're just unable to do it. Or it could be mental health issues. There are a number of issues that cause us to be unable to perform our duties. And then the final percent are the bad apples. 10% of people just don't want to do the job. They're unwilling, they don't care, they're entitled, they're just there to get a paycheck. They could care less about the company, care less about the product, and not even want to get out of bed in the morning. This is a means to an end for them. Those are the people that we don't necessarily want working for us. We can certainly try to train them, try to coach them, try to give them the positive rah-rah, but ultimately these are the people that will likely move themselves towards termination through regular company disciplinary procedures. So, how do we get people to not quit us? How do we deal with these? Basically, effective communication is your best friend. This is the most powerful tool for you guys to use for both personal and professional success. And communication is really tricky because we all communicate a little bit differently. And for some of us, this is incredibly challenging. Communication is not all of our strong suits. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of different things, right? There's texting, there's emails, there's Facebook Messenger, there's still fax machines. There's 100 different ways to communicate, and we all interpret those types of communications differently, especially if it's not face-to-face and we can't read body language. So it's our job to communicate clearly with facts, tell our reports or our subordinates, our employees, not only what's going on, but also to help them understand why they should feel motivated to perform at their peak for the company. Like I said, everybody's different. Everybody communicates with a different level of emotion and takes a different level of emotion to work. But 80% of our problems in the workplace are communication related. So if we just take the time to sit down and listen to our employees and to calm down if we're angry and to communicate effectively and not emotionally necessarily, but on a professional level, we can fix these problems. We can listen to our employees' problems and move them towards where they need to be to find success. So these are just some active listening steps for you guys to consider. I mean, active listening is really hard. I catch myself all the time zoning out when somebody's talking to me because my mind is spinning with 100 other things to do during my day. But it's really important to kind of be mindful of who you're talking to, especially if it's one of your staff members. So the most important thing, well, one of the most important things, face the speaker, Maintain eye contact with them. Look at them. That's going to help you focus on them. Don't like stare out the window. Be attentive. Keep an open mind to what they're saying, especially if it's not something you're agreeing with or they're issuing a complaint or whatever's going on. Just keep an open mind. Listen to the words and try to imagine what they're saying, right? Like actively trying to put images to what they're saying is a trick that some people use to stay focused. Don't interrupt them or start telling them your solutions. Let them finish what they need to say. Wait for them to pause before you get clarification. Give them regular feedback that you're listening, right? Like, yes, I hear you. Okay, yes, that's fine, great. Pay attention to those nonverbal cues. If somebody's agitated, obviously their arms are probably moving around, their face is getting red. Like, be aware of what their bodies are telling you. And be aware of potential barriers that might impact yours or their ability to listen effectively. Whether that's hearing issues or you're standing in the middle of a mill and there's 20 different machines running, like go to an appropriate space so that you can hear one another. Another essential piece of communication is timing. Address issues as they arise, whether they're positive, like people are performing great, or whether they're negative, somebody's not doing the job correctly. If we wait till next week to address the issues, they're over, right? Either the product hasn't been delivered properly or somebody went unrecognized for their hard work. The sooner we address the issue, the more that our employees will appreciate us, the more that we will fix problems, the quicker those problems will be fixed. If somebody's not doing the job correctly and you give them a verbal clarification, you walk them through the process and they're just not doing the work, it's important to move people through the disciplinary process with the appropriate time frame, right? We can't wait 2 months to discipline somebody for something. It has to happen immediately. And that's a really important process to protect yourself, right? Through documentation and moving through towards termination, I should say, so that you're documenting everything appropriately. That not only protects you, but it protects the company. So make sure that you're being timely and documenting. Following up with our employees is really important. So if we tell them to get to work on time, we need to follow up with them the following week to say, hey, thanks for getting here on time, or hey, you're still not getting here at the appropriate time and you're not clocking in, and so here's your formal written warning, and go through that process. And as always, in order to be any type of leader, you need to be respectful of your staff. Don't yell at someone across the mill and call them a dumbass if they're doing something unsafe or something that they're not supposed to be doing. Walk over there, tell them what's going on, fix the problem, pull them aside. There's no reason to embarrass our staff, and the first time we do that, we're going to lose trust with everybody. So be very cognizant of what you're saying, when you're saying it, how you're saying it. So communicating long and or emotional messages. This is a tough one because people love to say it's not personal, it's business. Well, I've never heard a bigger load of BS before because we spend over a third of our day at work and most of our lives working. So it's very personal. Our jobs are personal. So don't pretend like they're not personal to your staff. Be aware that people are emotionally tied to their jobs for various reasons. It is personal, it is emotional, and sometimes when somebody's getting disciplined or written up for whatever issue, it can be frustrating. So to start with, briefly explain the intention of your conversation, especially if you know it could be emotional. The other person will be able to better listen to you and respond to you if they have a basic understanding of the time and effort and the reasoning that they will be bringing to the conversation. Use a lot of I statements, like, I don't appreciate when you don't get to work on time because it's demoralizing to the rest of the team who is here on time. Not, you're here late and I can't take it anymore, right? Like, we need to fall back on our own selves when we're presenting these things to our employees. If you have to criticize somebody, describe their behaviors or their actions that are bothering you instead of them as an individual. Don't say, you're pissing me off. Just say, hey, when you're late, it's frustrating because it's demoralizing to the team, right? It's all in a matter of presentation. And then don't engage in verbal attacks of the person, obviously. There's no reason for that. I mean, I know we can all get pissed off. We've all been angry at work before. We've all had that one annoying employee or 2 or 3 annoying employees where we just want to slam the door in their face. But we need to be professional here, whether we like it or not, to protect ourselves, to protect the company, to maintain respect. And then number 4, State what you need or expect in positive terms. So you're late, please be here on time tomorrow. If you're not, we'll have to move through the formal disciplinary process, right? Calm, effective, there's a solution, we're working towards fixing the problem. So managing a conflict, let's take a quick look at this. The best piece of advice I give or try to give to employers is just to keep calm. It's so easy to get sucked into the rage and to start screaming and yelling and cussing, and things get thrown across the office. The second you lose your calm, you lose control over the conversation and the situation. Not to mention you just made yourself look like an idiot, because that's not what effective leaders do. So keep calm. Even if you have to walk away and say, hey, we can talk about this tomorrow, or hey, let's talk about this in 10 minutes, get out of there if you're about to blow your top. Concentrate on what you need to move forward, right? We're not going to focus on how they're messing up in your eyes. Just tell them what they need to be doing to get back on track. Give affirmation to what that other person might be feeling, right? Maybe they're mad too. Okay, let's address that. Let's move forward and get them what they need to do in order to be successful. Apologize. That's so simple. If we mess up, apologize. If you're telling somebody that they've been late the past 2 weeks, but you were looking at the wrong time card for the different guy, yep, we get to apologize. And then once again, let's focus on those positive results. Get here on time, complete all your work tasks safely. So I just wanted to take a quick note on introductory periods, because this is when your leadership is going to shine the brightest, so to speak, and make the biggest impact, because those first couple months of work are crash courses for most people, right? Like they got thrown into the pool and they're trying to sink or swim. And you, as their supervisor, as their leader, are their source of support. And they're going to look to you for coaching. They're going to look to you as to whether or not they even want to work there. So this is your chance to train and to get people the help they need to be successful with your company. It's your chance to put them on the correct path to the culture you expect them to adhere to. Don't forget that they are subject to that introductory period, and that we need to be doing monthly performance evaluations, if not more, so that if they're not working out, we can document that and safely move them towards termination with minimal risk of termination, which is all important things to keep in mind as a leader for your company. Review the job descriptions with your staff. That is another big piece of advice, I should say, because if they are unable to meet that job description, they are unable to do the job, period. And that's an easy way to either A, move somebody towards termination because they don't want to do the job, or B, get them the help they need to effectively do everything on that job description to set them up for success with the company. If concerns do arise over this period of time, right, this introductory period, managers should really think about engaging with human resources or other management staff to seek advice, to see what the next steps are, making sure that performance evaluations are put in their personnel files and that proper documentation is made if corrective action must be taken, right? This is the time to really work together with other HR leaders and supervisors in your company. So basically what this slide says with a lot of words is you can't ignore your team and be effective. So get out there and walk around. If you've got your staff out in the mill doing what they're doing, producing what they need to produce, and you're sitting up in the office on the computer, running reports or doing whatever it is that you need to do for the day, and you're not talking to them, looking at them, speaking to them, making sure everything's being done safely and accurately, your team will fail. You need to go out there and check on them once in a while, right? Autonomy is great, but absolute autonomy is bad. So keep an eye on them, go walk around, go ask questions, get yourself in front of them. That way they know you're around. They know you've got your eye on them, that they're not just going to be out there messing around. And I have seen some prime examples of staff doing stupid crap, like racing the forklifts when nobody's around to keep track of them. So just keep your eye on them. Another important thing to remember and to tie into your leadership style and to figure out how you want to tie into your leadership style is your employee handbook. You have to know that employee handbook inside and out. You have to follow those policies because you have to have consistency with them for every single staff member. You need to know how to discipline, you need to know how to move towards termination, and you need to know who to talk to about each of those issues. So, know those policies, use them to your advantage as you're out there leading. so that you can get employees on the right track to success, towards great goal setting, towards overall happiness with the company, because your happiness is important too, right? As we set goals for our team, as we set goals as a leader, we're setting goals for ourselves, making sure that we're successful as a company overall. So basically, in conclusion, you guys are in control out there. You guys build that company culture. You guys set the workplace to be what it is for your staff. So the better prepared you guys are for that and for dealing with staff and for communicating and setting goals, the higher success you'll have, the happier your team will be, the more they'll come to you. And that's all I've got for you guys today. If you guys need me for any reason, or if you want to talk about leadership a bit more, or you've got any HR issues or employment law questions, please reach out to me. I'm available at any time. This is my cell phone number. You guys can, of course, reach me off the main office line as well. But otherwise, I don't see any questions on the chat box because it was kind of a, kind of a broad topic. Well, have a great rest of your day, guys. Thanks for attending.